we go. Today I have with me a very special guest. This is Miss Julie Joyner. We're always doing FaceTime, but today I've been very lucky to have her live and in person so that we can have some fun times of talking and dancing and just being the silly, goofy gals that we've always been. I'm going to let Julie begin. She's going to tell us how you became a dancer from little to sitting in this chair in Hudson.
So basically, ever since I could walk, I was always moving around, and I feel like my parents really noticed that I had a good sense of music and rhythm, and I was always moving my feet, walking on my toes, spinning around. I loved dressing up in cute clothes and princess gowns. I loved princesses, and I feel like I was just always dancing, so my mom decided one day to put me in ballet. And from then, I basically just fell in love with it. And I also began tapping, and I like to tap too. A lot of kids like to tap because it's just loud and obnoxious, and you can just run around. So I really enjoyed that. And then from there, I kind of tried other things like cheer, gymnastics. I liked it all, but I really always came back to dance. So then probably around the age of 7, I feel like I was about 7, I started in a more commercial dance world. So I kind of ventured off from ballet, and I started the other styles like jazz, hip hop, tap, musical theater, lyrical, contemporary, and again, I would just fell in love with it. Really realized it was my passion. Really falling more in love with ballet. And when I started working with you, I really was telling you, I think ballet is my favorite, and you kind of know I liked wearing my hair in buns and leotards rather than ponytails and sports bras, and so I was always more of a ballet gal. So I really that's kind of how it just developed over time, but really from basically when I was born and could walk, I was always dancing. So
I remember you in class because we would always have the bar out in the middle because the class was so full, and I was always standing on the end of it so that people could see the combinations that we were making up. You were always right there on that side, and you would just try to sneak in with your little black leg warmers on, and just
very confident.
But you were always had your hair, and you literally took every class that I taught. Didn't matter what age group you were in it. You just were like, I want to be in here. And you were a little sponge. It was wild to see how quickly and how natural it came to you. So that was just from a dancer perspective. It was neat seeing you grow up, because I think you were 9 when I started.
About 9, I think. It wasn't right towards the beginning, because I was just taking like a 2-hour class once a week. But as I got older, I started taking the senior class, the junior class, and just kind of grew.
And then privates with Mr. Jimmy. I did privates with me too. You were there a lot.
I was there a lot.
Do you remember what the first ballet was that you saw?
I always think about that, and I actually asked my mom that a few weeks ago. I feel like it was the Nutcracker, which is very basic, but I definitely think it's just a staple, ballet performance. And so probably around like 2 or 3, I went to see the Nutcracker one Christmas.
For mine, I actually went to Atlanta Ballet's version of the Cinderella. Remember mine?
Well, when I started commercial dance, I always dreamed of being a professional. That's pretty much always been the goal for me. But I started online schooling in 5th grade. And from then on, I was basically set on being a professional dancer. I didn't know which direction, but I was gonna be a professional dancer. And so kind of when I was doing commercial dance, I wanted to be on Broadway for a really long time. I really enjoyed musical theater. I had very intricate, crazy facial expressions all the time, and I actually liked singing at the time, and so I was very much into musical theater, and so my goal was to be on Broadway.
Again, as that dream kind of morphed into a ballet career dream, or just dream of being a professional ballerina, that is when my mind was set, like I want to be a ballerina because, you know, I grew up watching people on YouTube, you know, professional ballerinas, Russian ballerinas, Svetlana Saharova, Marietta with Royal Ballet, all of these ballerinas, and I was just like, they're just so beautiful, and it's so different ballet. I mean, than like musical theater and tap. It's so much more restrictive, and you have so many. It's very rule based. You know, you can't do this, you can't do that, you have to do this. Musical theater is much more free. So it's kind of interesting that I really wanted to do ballet because you would think, you know, you'd rather do something more free. But my heart just was drawn to ballet, and that's kind of how it started. So,
If you could describe your dancing in 3 words, what would it be? What would it be?
I would say first that my dancing is very passionate, because even sometimes my teachers will be like, Julie, you gotta tone it down a little. It's a little bit too passionate. It's a little bit, because when I dance, I sometimes get my shoulders really high, and I feel like that's less of a technical issue and more of just like a feeling, like you're just, you know? So I would say probably passionate.
second, I would say strong. I would say strong. I'm just a very strong answer because I've always believed in flexibility. Flexibility is definitely very important. I did rhythmic gymnastics for a very long time. And so I've always been a very flexible dancer, but strength is also extremely important with that because, I mean, you can't dance if you're not strong. So you got to balance the flexibility with the strength. And I feel like I have a good understanding of my body and its strengths and weaknesses. And so I'd say strong is probably another one. And third, I would say very actually a tricky question. Motivated. I'd say motivated. I'm very motivated to get better and grow and learn. And
But your technique is insane. Out of this world. It is wild to watch how controlled you are, how much strength you have. But then you literally do what dancers are supposed to do, is make it look effortless. It is such a joy to watch.
Quite a lot. I would say my whole life is pretty much devoted to dance, to ballet. I basically get up, I do a 2-hour stretching routine every day. I have since I was about 7 years old. Yep, you remember? 2-hour stretching routine, drive an hour to dance. I get there around 11 every day, have a 2.5-hour private, start with class and rehearsals, and I'm not done till about 6 o'clock. So it's a full day of dancing, and when I get home, I usually practice what we worked on in my privates, and I stretch to help me not be sore the next day. And so basically all day, every day, Monday through Friday, half of Saturday is spent dancing. So
The difference between preparing for competition and just normal rehearsal days, there's a lot more focus on detail, and the same time is spent every day, but it's just what you're specifically working on for a competition, more artistically and more about the story of the piece and the what are you doing in the variation at this point in the ballet, and just the details of the artistic qualities and artistic details is what we focus more on for competitions, because honestly that's what makes you stand out in a competition. I mean, you can have all the technique in the world, but if you've got nothing going on artistically, then really it's not going to be interesting to the judges. So
I always say that I feel like the artistic quality and everything, it can't be learned. It has to come from the heart. And if you don't naturally have it, you're never going to have it. And as bad as that sounds, it's really the truth in my opinion, because I've had people, you know, ask me, well, what do you do for your artistic ability in your facial expressions, and how do you practice this? And I always tell them I don't practice it. It just comes when I'm on stage, and it's just a natural feeling. It comes from the heart. And I have no tips for you because I don't know the answer to that. It just kind of happens. And so it's definitely very, very important to be a professional, I think. It can be a challenge for sure when you're in the studio all day, every day. But I feel like over the years I've done a really good job balancing because mentally I'm good, physically I'm good, and I feel like a lot of girls my age, I'll be 18 in 2 weeks, and this is kind of a yay, it's kind of like a big stepping stone for me, and I feel like graduating high school and everything is kind of a stressful time because you don't know what you're gonna do, where you're gonna go. Luckily I've had my heart set on the same thing for a long time, so I don't have to struggle with that.
I feel like just figuring out times where you can just relax on the couch and watch TV and ice your foot or whatever you need to for the day, and the next day of rehearsals is very important, and being very close with your parents, sharing your feelings is very important. Weekends, you know, go to a festival and walk around, or go with, you know, a cousin or an aunt and go to the mall and have fun. I mean, it's just little things. Resting is important, but also going out and seeing real people, and you know how to interact with people, and just finding out what you enjoy and doing that on the weekends when you're free is very important. But also finding time to rest and read a book and just chill.
Going into the performing genre of
Yes.
things now, what is your favorite style of dance to perform?
Ooh, my favorite style of dance to perform. I feel like it's a tie because they both bring very different things to the table. When I'm contemporary, I've always really enjoyed and been quite good at, just because it's very freeing and artistically, just you can basically do whatever, and it's contemporary in my opinion. I mean, you can
Move around, you can do more of a trick-based acro routine. It still counts as contemporary. It's just there's such a variety of movement that you can do, and it will still be contemporary.
In fact, your last contemporary that you did at Pre was very,
very ugly,
very dark.
I would say. And it's funny because my teacher was actually saying, Julie, be ugly. You have to be ugly this way. Embody just like an ugly creature. And I kind of found that quality, and I really enjoyed it. It's honestly very freeing and just like amazing just to be turned in, you know? Because your whole life you're just like turn out. And for once you can just turn in. It's amazing.
This is a new feeling.
Ballet, it's definitely more restricting, but then you can be Sleeping Beauty, you can be a swan. I mean, there's so many varieties of characters you can play. It's also very exciting. So, and you get to wear beautiful tutus and just be a princess, and just there's so many different things. It's so hard to decide which is my favorite, so I'm gonna have to say they're a tie for sure.
Which one of your solos is closest to your heart, and why?
Solos closest to my heart, and why? I would say, oh, interesting. I would say this year I am doing a new solo at USA IBC in Jackson, Mississippi. And
my dad passed away in January, and it's basically about his experience he was going through. He was dealing with a lot of personal issues, mental issues, and he was struggling to find hope. And I feel like a lot of people struggle with mental health, and they struggle to find hope and someone to talk to. And although I had no idea that he was going through this, because he did such a good job at hiding it, and he just wanted to take care of me and make sure that my dreams were coming true and I was always happy, that he didn't focus a lot on himself. And this is basically about his mental struggle and it will be an amazing premiere.
Do you get nervous before going on stage?
Absolutely. And people always ask me, Julie, why do you still get nervous? Like, seriously, why do you get nervous? You should be so confident at this point. I get so nervous. I don't know why. It kind of goes away as you're on stage, but especially as I've gotten older, for some reason, I get more and more nervous.
Oh, you were such a nervous wreck when you were little. I'm so glad I'm not backstage with you now.
Absolutely, my performances at Preble is on. All of them, the Rossini cards and Grandpa. I feel like that competition in general is the best time I've ever danced, for sure. And I feel like that's because I had worked on Grandpa for months, and I only had to prepare one variation for the competition, which is amazing. One variation. That's
Not much.
awesome. I mean, just focus on Grandpa, and I had 2 chances to do it. I was able to get to the final round, and then, you know, thanks to my teachers and all of my supporters and everything, I was able to win a prize at Pugilasan. But I really enjoyed performing Grandpa because I was so confident in the variation that I could just let go. And also, the audience. I mean, that was the first time I had fully performed with a full house. I mean, there was not a seat without a person sitting in it.
And that's
I
a
mean,
huge theater.
huge theater, huge stage. I mean, the stage is like the size of a football field, it feels like. I mean, it is huge.
Wow.
And so that's the first time I've danced on a stage that big, the first time I've danced with a full house.
This one's going to be interesting to hear your answer to, but have you ever forgotten a step on stage?
Absolutely. Yes, I have. But I always say the most important thing is the recovery. And I feel like I've forgotten steps on stage probably 5 to 6 times in my life, which I feel like is pretty good. But I mean, the worst was probably a competition when I did commercial dance. And both of my solos, I forgot half of them on stage, and I just made up the rest.
Going a little deeper.
Okay.
So according to you, what important traits should a dancer have?
Okay. I would say always the love for what you're doing. If you don't love it, there's no point in continuing, because you're not going to grow and you're not going to find any motivation to keep going. And so times will get really hard if you're trying to be a professional dancer. There will be times when you never feel like you're good enough. I feel like that's very common in dancers, is just this feeling like whatever I do is never good enough. No matter what I do, it's never going to be good enough. And I just wanted to make it clear that you are good enough if you have the love for it. And there's so many paths you can take in dance. Even if you're trying to be a ballet dancer and you don't think it's going to work out, you know, try to go to Juilliard. I mean, go to a college and dance. There's so many opportunities for dance. And I feel like people just give up if their exact dream doesn't come true, but find another path. I mean, dance, there's such a variety. I mean,
so the love keeps you going. The love, the motivation. I'd say, I don't want to say silliness, but in a way, I mean, find the funny things. I mean, if you fall in class, laugh at yourself. I mean, just let go, find the joy and dance, and you'll go really far, I feel like.
I tell my dancers when they fall, they have to thank the floor for catching them.
I remember that.
And then my dancers look at me and they're like, what?
Yeah.
What are good ways for dancers to deal with the stresses and pressures of dancing?
Communication is a really good way to deal with the stress. Communicating with your parents, and also communicating to your teachers if you feel like something they're doing or something they've said has upset you. Communication is very important. Not being afraid to be like, so you said something the other day, and I'm wondering if you really meant this, or you're meaning more of this. I was just a little confused and upset. Can you tell me what you meant by this? Just communicating and finding someone that you can, you know, really talk to about personal things like a parent or a really close friend. Yes, just finding someone that you can talk to, I feel like is very important. Communication is a good way, and definitely decompressing when you get home every day. You know, getting lots of sleep is very important for stress. But stress will come, trust me. Stress will come, and you just have to find. It's also a very personal thing. You have to, you know, you can take advice from others, but you really just have to find out what's best for you, for sure.
Follow your heart.
Mhm.
Gotta follow your heart. Hard work versus talent. What's your take?
Definitely born with talent. Definitely, for sure. I mean, talent's something that someone notices right away. But talent doesn't really matter without hard work. I feel like you can be born with as much talent in the world, but if you don't work hard or be motivated to get better, there's really no point. I mean, you're not going to see any true growth in a dancer, for sure. I mean, yeah, I see dancers all the time that are talented, but they get distracted or unmotivated and they have no drive to get better, and it just doesn't work out. And it's a very frustrating thing to see, especially for teachers, I feel like, in the dance world, to see a student that has all the talent in the world and they're just throwing it away and wasting it.
That is probably one of the things that hurts my heart the most as a teacher, is to see dancers that are just destined for greatness, but then they're like, nah, I'm good.
Or they don't
I'll
see
quit
it,
after high school.
right?
You're like, but,
Or they don't see it in themselves, or no one ever tells them that they have it, or it's very important to be told, like, you have so much talent.
yes.
It's very important to be told that.
So what advice do you give to aspiring dancers?
Ooh, I would say stay disciplined. There's a lot of moments where you could get very distracted by life and have moments where you feel like you should be doing something else or being more social. But if you really want to be a professional dancer, you have to learn to sacrifice. And so I would say my biggest advice for young dancers is just to have a goal, go for the goal, and stay on the right path and not get distracted and stay very disciplined.
It's very hard at times, even for me. You know, you go to the mall and you see teenagers walking around and you're like, you know, I wish I had that life. But then you go to the studio the next day and you're like, this is the life for me. And I can't imagine myself anywhere else. And this is just what I was born to do. And I always remind myself, this is what I was born to do. I mean, from walking on my tippy toes, pretty much out of the womb, I just was walking on, I had the highest demi point possible, which is really messed up my Achilles tendons now. But I mean, it's true. Born to be on stage, and just always remember that, for sure.
So you are about to turn 18. That's hard for me to say. Cause she's not that, she's still little Jules. And that's my nickname for her, little Jules. But what is currently on your next step? Where is it that you're heading? I want people to hear it from you live on camera.
As of August 14th, I will be joining the Royal Ballet in London as an apprentice. Thanks to the director of the Royal Ballet, Kevin O'Hare, and Christopher Wheeldon, and Chris Powney, and so many people that have really just been so generous in giving me this opportunity. It's just incredible.
So that is what I will be doing, and that has been my dream for pretty much my entire life, I would say. And I mean, it's always been like in the back of my head, like, I want to be a ballerina at the Royal Ballet. I mean, who doesn't? All the little girls that are doing ballet, I want to be a ballerina at the Royal Ballet in London. I mean, of course. But for that actually to be a reality is just incredible. And so I'm very excited. And people always ask me, you know, from there, what is your dream from there? I would say as corny as it sounds, to definitely be a star. I've always wanted to be a star in ballet, just travel around the world and dance everywhere as much as I can and just guest performances. And it's always just been my goal to be a star of ballet for sure. That is what my heart will always be set on, just being a star.
And I get to look back and say, I knew her then.
Yes, hopefully. Yeah, that's the
No,
goal.
negative Nellies.
That is the
Positive-
goal.
positive
That is
answers.
the goal.
That's
Put
right.
it
That's
into
right.
fruition.
That's right. Put it out there. That's right. That's where my no negative Nelly started from, I think, was back.
Probably.
in the
I still
days.
say it.
Yep, I know. We are going to go ahead and end our little chat session so you can get to your rehearsals and running dances or whatever it is you need to do today. But I will ask my final question that I ask all interviewees, and that is, you get to finish this sentence. The future is,
Right.
there you go. And there you have it. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit and talk with me today. You know, I love you dearly.
Yes.
And I know my viewers are going to be thrilled that I sat down and got to talk to you because they watch you religiously
Oh,
and
thank you.
follow you
Thank you.
and talk about you.
I'm just Julie.
I know it. You're just my jewels. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yay!